Hello, welcome to the video. I'm going to be testing Cyberpunk out on my 4070 Ti Super. I'm going to be doing it at 4K, so we've got that set here. We do obviously have 16 gig of VRAM now, so hopefully it should run a little bit better at 4K. I'm going to set it to the Ray Tracing Overdrive preset at first. Then I'm going to also set DLSS upscaling to quality. We've got ray reconstruction on, frame generation on, so that's DLSS 3.5. Path tracing's on. I'm going to switch depth of field off and motion blur off. And then graphics wise, the preset is maxed out, so every setting is maxed out apart from screen space reflections here is just set to ultra instead. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so it's looking like we're getting about 40 to 50 by the looks of it. In that kind of range. Definitely going to be some dips down into the 30s. Obviously we're looking here at like a 5 to 10% increase from the 4070 Ti 12 gig model. I know Nvidia said it was more like 15, but it's definitely closer to 5 to 10, especially in this game with these settings. I think on average, I think we were looking at maybe like a 35 in this area, maybe slightly low on the 4070 Ti 12 gig, so on the average here, it's like 5 to 10%. VRAM is looking okay. It's crept up a little bit, still under 16 gig. Obviously we're at 14 here. I'd expect to see that creep up a little bit the longer we play. Obviously that's another thing that separates it here between the 4070 Ti 12 gig model as well, is that we'd be way over that VRAM limit here at 4K. That would, we've obviously have tried that before and the VRAM does become a big problem. I'm seeing a little bit of ghosting still. Look at this car here, behind the car. Still getting that ghosting issue, even with ray reconstruction on here. Looks nice though, reflections-wise. In the road here, it looks really nice. GPU power-wise as well, doesn't look too bad. 240 we're at. So around about that. It's pretty efficient. Here's the perfect example of the range of FPS that you'll get. In this bit here, we're between 50 and 60, and then if we go closer into the city, like as soon as we turn the car around here, and it's going to get down into the 30s, like as soon as we enter in here, down to 38, 37, 36, so you're looking at an overall range of between about 35 and 60, really, for the most part, depending on where you are. Yeah, it's definitely not as responsive. That's for sure. Even the frame rate's dropping down a little bit, 32 here. I'll also demonstrate here the issue with the GPU usage. So it seems like an issue with ray reconstruction and frame generation on at the same time. So if I'm to switch frame generation off here, you'll see that the GPU usage should be back up to 99%. Kind of fluctuate between 95 and 99, but it's still mostly maxed out. As you can see there, 98, 99%. So definitely seems like an issue there between having those both on at the same time. Right, so I'm now going to see if we can get any sort of playable frame rate. So I've dropped down to DLSS performance, still at 4K, and we've still got everything maxed out with path tracing. So we'll kind of see what kind of FPS we can get with that. It should be roughly above 60, which it looks like we are. You're looking at a range between, I'd say maybe about 60 and 80, depending on where you are. With even some dips below 60, I would guess, in some areas in this game. Looking at maybe 55, 60 at its kind of lowest. So you're probably going to have to drop it to ultra performance, I think, if you want to stay permanently above 60 with no drops underneath. Ooh. Looking like our VRAM is down as well by about a gig or two from when we had it at quality. But it's pretty much doubled our FPS from DLSS quality by the looks of it. We're closer to the 30, 35. I'm now going to take a look at 4K native, so I've switched off DLSS upscaling, frame generations off, we've still got path tracing on, and then graphics settings are just still set to Ultra, which is the equivalent of the ray tracing overdrive preset that we had before. FPS here obviously is not going to be particularly good, but I thought I'd just take a look at it anyway without any upscaling and stuff. We're getting like, what, 12, 13 FPS? Yeah, really not great. It is actually a little better than I thought. I thought it'd be like 5 FPS or less. I'm now going to take a look with ray tracing and path tracing off, so we've got that switched off here. I'm still at 4K native, so there's no DLSS upscaling or anything. And settings-wise, we've got everything set to either high or ultra here. So we see the frame rate of that. It should hopefully be... It's still a very, very tough game to run here. So 30, 35 between there. It's obviously a lot better than path tracing. You know, it's somewhat playable at 30 to 40 FPS. You know, you could probably push out 60 if you just dropped some of the settings, I imagine. Could definitely room for some optimization of settings there. Now, I imagine if we put on something like DLSS quality, can we push 60 FPS? Might be just under. Oh, bang on. Oh, slightly under. 57, 55, 57. But this is easily playable like this. If you wanted to maintain quality without dropping the DLSS preset any lower, you could play like this, 50 to 60. I'm now going to take a look at 1440p, so we've got that set here. We've got DLSS upscaling set to quality, ray reconstruction on, frame generation on. We've still got path tracing on and everything maxed out, so the same as what we had when we first tested 4K. And it's looking like we're getting about almost 90 FPS there, between like 80 and 90 FPS. So you're looking at over double the frame rate from the same settings at 4K. We had about 35 to 45, so pretty much double. Which obviously makes this pretty playable at 1440p. I definitely think, like I was saying earlier, I think this card's somewhere in between 1440p and 4K still. It's going to struggle in brand new games at 4K, especially with technologies like ray tracing and path tracing. But then older games, I think it should be fine 4K. So it's a balance between those, really. You can definitely make it work with either, I think, depending on what settings you want to have and if you're bothered about using DLSS or frame generation. Whereas this game, I would say, is probably more suited towards 1440p, especially if you're going to use ray tracing. But VRAM looks fine on this, under 12 gig. Would even probably be fine with these settings on the 4070 Ti 12 gig model. Power as well, doesn't look too bad, 250. I'm now going to take a look at native 1440p. So we've still got path tracing on, we've just got DLSS upscaling and frame generation off. So it looks like we get about 30, 35. Probably going to dip down into the 20s, I would guess, in some areas. Obviously, we had about 12, 13 FPS at 4K with these settings, so it's just over doubled that as well. It's still not going to be amazing, 30. It's still not really playable, but I would guess even at 1080p here, with these settings, I'm not even sure it would be 60 with that either. Like, maybe close, but we could also switch path tracing off. So if I switch path tracing off here, we just have standard ray tracing on. That's going to give us a lot more frames. Still not quite hitting 60, but it would be playable like this. 50, 55, you could do it. You get a bit of the best of both worlds, really. Good image quality and then, you know, reasonably okay performance as well. So this is kind of demonstrating that it's really, this GPU for this game is really more suited for 1440p. So even if I switch ray tracing completely off here, so we're at 1440p with everything maxed, just without any ray tracing at all, up into like 90 to 100 FPS, which is obviously a big, big difference, so that's going to be it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching. Make sure to drop a like on the video, leave me a comment, let me know what you think of the graphics card so far, and I'll catch you next time.